And welcome to our community. Susie Thomas joining you this morning. Really excited about our guest today. We've got James Waters, who is the director of the Canton Film Festival. Good morning, James.
Hey, good morning, Susie.
Some folks might not know there is a Canton Film Festival. How long have you been doing this?
So this is actually our fifth festival. The past four we've had in October, but we decided to move it to end of spring, April 21st, 22nd, 23rd this year, to hopefully get some more people out to enjoy some local films and some different Hollywood celebrities.
And what was the idea of moving it to spring?
Hopefully, like, kids would have a chance to submit their projects that they've worked on throughout the year.
Oh, okay. So you are aiming for students and younger people to be able to become young filmmakers.
Yes, because it's kind of a learning festival, giving kids a chance to be seen on the big screen, but it's also open to any filmmakers. So we've had a variance of submissions. We've actually received a lot of global submissions last year from kind of all over Germany, the UK, that kind of stuff, which is kind of amazing that they find this festival in Little Canton, Ohio, compared to the rest of the world. So
that is kind of amazing. I know the whole idea of the film festival circuit. Many states have a couple. We have the Cleveland Film Festival, which is an international film festival. Canton, you're saying, is also an international film festival. They find you online? How did they find you?
Yes, we post the festival's information on a site called Film Freeway. And then also, obviously, through cantonfilm.com, which is our website.
So what kinds of films did you get from around the world in the past?
They've been able to submit in various categories every year. We have like 6 to 10 shorts categories that they're able to submit to. So we've received like music videos internationally, documentaries, and then even like short narratives.
What are those categories, all of the categories, so that a person who's listening is saying, it'd be fun to make a movie and enter it?
Well, so this year we kind of added a couple different things and kind of moved a couple things and kind of pushed some things together. So this year our categories are sports documentaries, which I figured would be great since we are in the Hall of Fame city.
Yes.
But any kind of inspirational story in sports, could be about a coach, could be about a player, et cetera, et cetera. We kind of merged the horror, sci-fi, and fantasy into a category, which is kind of fun. So horror movies are probably the easiest to make, and even when they're bad, they can be good. So we always have a lot of fun with a lot of the horror categories. We had a comedy this year, which is kind of nice because it's kind of fallen into other categories in the past, but it allows people. Comedy is probably then the hardest genre to make,
Yes.
but so hopefully we get some good comedies out there as well. Action, people, you see a lot of people that do a lot of fan films for different things, even short films. So I think that action genre really kind of could highlight some very nice work that's being created in the Northeast Ohio area. Music videos, I mean, MTV's gone away. However, people still make music videos, and they're very popular online. So, and we have a big culture of music even in downtown with like Buzzbin and a lot of those venues as well. And then short fiction drama. So there's a wide variety for people to be able to submit their films and get them judged and possibly win a prize.
I think it's so interesting that you're building this. You're in your 5th year, you said?
Yes.
Building this in Canton, Ohio, of all places. Not maybe what comes to mind first when people say filmmaking capital of the world, but yet you are really growing and seeing young filmmakers developing in this area, aren't you?
Oh, Northeast Ohio is packed with a lot of talented young filmmakers. The nice part about video production and those sort of things now is you can do it anywhere. It doesn't, your distribution can be online. You can get followers via social media. It's the kind of the old chain of how things had to work. It doesn't necessarily exist. So, the fact that it can be capable and hopefully it's inspirational and, like the factory jobs have all went away. We're not the big still area, but we're building a $500 million Hall of Fame village down the street. Like, why can't this be a part of that too?
Mm-hmm. It's amazing to me. I think the success you've had at this point. Let's talk about some of the past film festivals. You've brought in some amazing guests. Tell us who has come to speak in the past.
So kind of always the focus on the guests that we have are people that I always want to get people from the Midwest mostly that have grown up here, maybe have left and have kind of made it to some level in this business. In our first year, we had Megan Harford, who was a special effects artist, and she was featured on the Sci-Fi Network's Face Off. And it's kind of cool to have seen her career grow even like in the last 5 years. You know, she's working on big movies now, doing a lot of big effects and that kind of thing. So that's very neat. We had a director, Drew Daywalt, who had started out as a writer in Hollywood, ended up doing horror shorts online, got recognized for a lot of that work. And coincidentally, in the past couple of years, he had wrote a book called The Day the Crayons Quit, which is a children's book, and it stayed on top of the New York Times bestsellers list, like the longest running picture book ever.
The Day the Crayons Quit.
Quit, yeah. So it's crazy. So he went from basically being a horror movie director to basically a children's author.
A Renaissance man.
Yeah, so he grew up in Twinsburg, so it's actually pretty amazing that he's had that journey within the last 5 years. So it's kind of neat to see how things have transgressed for him.
Nick Pistay, I know, was one of your speakers.
Yes, and he's still writing a ton of Hollywood features, and which is amazing. Christopher Grimes, he was a documentary filmmaker from the first year, and since him coming to Canton, I've had the chance to work with him on a film called Dog by Dog. So I ended up being a producer on Dog by Dog, which is a documentary about puppy mills in the Midwest. So, and then we actually have another project in the works as well, which is pretty neat.
Well, that brings me to my next question. Let's find out more about you. What is your interest in film? What brought you to Canton with this dream?
So I pretty much grew up here.
Where'd you go to school?
I graduated from McKinley way back when. We won't get into years then, but
it's okay.
And then I actually graduated from Bowling Green with a film studies major. And then my route kind of took me via Chicago and then to Los Angeles for about 5 years. And then, like most people, I kind of get sucked back into the hometown, which isn't a bad thing. But I just realized kind of the lack of this kind of support for people that are interested in these things. And
here or out in LA?
In Canton. So, and then you could see though, as like technology started to change and it became easier because kind of when I started out in the film business, it was all 35 millimeter. When we shot commercials and stuff. I mean, it was more of an arduous process. Now you can make a movie by going to Best Buy and spending a couple of grand on video equipment.
Seen some amazing movies done on phones.
Oh yeah, you can. As my next thing, you could even shoot a film on your phone. So there's no excuse now not to have a creative outlet. And people watch cat videos on YouTube, so they'll probably watch your movie too.
What do you do to support yourself?
I do a lot of freelance producing for like marketing videos and like commercials and that sort of thing. So we'd actually just produced the Mount Union commercial that aired during the Stag Bowl, which is pretty neat. So that was a pretty fun spot. So technically that was a national spot that aired for Mount Union. Okay,
so you do the serious work, the bread and butter work, but then you also really have some fun creative outlets. You've got a number of projects that you've worked on or are getting ready to work on. Tell us a bit about those.
So, well, actually last week it was kind of neat. I had a chance to produce a short film for a past student of mine. And he had originally had the idea probably like 5 or 6 years ago when I had him in my class. So it's kind of been nice to see that come full circle, be able to give him the pieces, parts, to be able to direct a short film. And hopefully it turns out very well. It's in the edit currently. And then,
can you tell us more about it?
Basically, it's kind of a throwback thriller horror movie to the 80s. So I don't want to give too much away, but there's a woman who gets locked in a store and there's some interesting mannequins that kind of surround her and
Okay, I'm
some
already
other
creeped
things.
out.
So, yeah.
Okay, thanks a lot.
Yeah.
And where can people see some of these films? Are they online? You have to go to YouTube, Vimeo? What do you do?
Well, a lot of the shorts, usually after the people, or like the stuff that I work on, you mean? Well, actually, there's a movie currently on like Hulu and Blu-ray that we shot in Canton last year called Rotor DR1. So that's streaming.
On Hulu?
Yeah, on Hulu,
That's
which is
kind
pretty
of big
neat.
time.
Yeah, so that was the one with Stonecat Productions where we were able to do like an audience participation film where the audience is allowed to interject some different plot points and key points. It's kind of an interesting way to make a movie because there was no script, more or less. We built the world and allowed. It was like a perpetual 48-hour film festival. Like we'd release an episode on Monday and then get feedback, have to rewrite the next episode and shoot it by the next Monday.
And this was all ideas coming from the audience, from the followers of the film itself?
Mostly because we kind of built the world, and you wouldn't have a character do something completely out of turn. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
So, but we allowed the writers to adapt. I mean, they were basically, the extra writers in the room. So, which was kind of neat.
What a cool idea. Now, is that finished up or will that continue at all?
It's finished. So that's the final. It's the final film is what's available like Hulu and Best Buy and Blu-ray.
Any ideas what did you think of doing it that way? Any ideas to try that again in the future sometime?
I think if it were more of a controlled adventure, more like a choose your adventure book, where there was a couple choices to see how the story shapes up, because I think the overly open platform almost kind of took away from it. So you would lose
from continuity and so forth.
You would lose a couple things there, but creatively it was definitely a challenge, and it would be something that I would do again. I mean, it was tough, but after it's all said and done, you have a full project done, and worked with a lot of cool people and that kind of thing. So
it's
it was
like
a good
taking
thing.
alternate ending to the max.
Yeah.
You're not just doing an alternate ending, you're doing alternate middle and even beginning.
Yeah. And it's nice too because then the audience felt like they were involved the whole time. So, which is kind of a different scope on movie making. So
about how many people would you say were involved then, as far as when you count the audience in as well?
Probably 1,000 people.
That's
if you
so
count.
fun.
Yeah. So
Very, very fun. We can see that on Hulu. Remind us the name of it.
Rotor DR1.
Rotor DR1.
Correct.
I remember seeing some kind of a premiere for a kind of a promotional for it, and it did look very unique.
Yeah, it was fun. It's kind of set in apocalypse of the future, and there's how drones might interact in society at that point, and some different things of that nature. So
fun. Sci-fi is kind of fun to explore. What other crazy ideas are rolling around up in your head there that you've got for the future?
Probably one project that hopefully is coming off the back burner is in Chicago. Christopher Grimes, the director that I do some work with, we have a thing in the works for a film called The Wisdom of Walk-Ons, basically about walk-ons in college football.
Nice.
And so there's a guy that was an author of a book called The Wisdom of Walk-Ons, and he's attached as well. But just trying to find the right venue to kind of get that kick-started. Guys like Mr. Plank from Under Armour, he was a walk-on in college football. So kind of telling those stories and those traits that are, that make those people unique, I think is important. And, especially kind of how people view sports right now, like, movies like Concussion coming out, or
Yes.
it's overly violent, or, there's all these stories about guys that, do X, Y, and Z. But, I mean, really, there are some really good traits that come out of, these walk-ons that just don't give up, that fight through anything, that, leave a good impression, and et cetera, et cetera. I think that would be a good story to be told. So
Very inspirational, too.
yes.
We're talking with James Waters from the Canton Film Festival. Going to take a break here. We'll be back in a few minutes after these words. Stay with us. You're listening to Our Community.